The moment a woman seems intensely interested in you, her fascination can vanish almost overnight, leaving confusion, frustration, and a gnawing sense of inadequacy in its wake. Many men believe this is purely emotional, or that it reflects something they did wrong, perhaps a text misstep, a lack of attention, or failure to impress. But the truth runs much deeper, and it is rooted in a shadowy realm of psychology that is seldom spoken about openly. The dynamics of the female psyche and the anima, as described by Carl Jung. Jung's theory of the anima represents the unconscious, feminine side in a man and the unconscious masculine in a woman. Yet it is not merely a static archetype, it is a living, pulsating presence that governs attraction, desire, and emotional resonance. Within every woman exists a subtle, internal dialogue shaped by her anima, her unconscious, projections of idealized desire and expectations. The interplay between her conscious choices and her unconscious drives determines whether attraction thrives or dies. And herein lies the paradox. What a woman consciously believes she desires may not align with what unconsciously ignites passion within her. This clash between conscious reasoning and unconscious instinct creates the most volatile dynamics in female desire. A woman can feel drawn to you, yet if her anima perceives something misaligned with her inner archetypal expectations, attraction can dissipate suddenly, as if evaporated by a mysterious force. This is not personal failure. It is the unconscious mechanism of attraction at work, a shadow dance between her perception of self, the ideal masculine archetype, and your own ability to trigger the right psychological resonance. In the next few minutes, we'll dissect why attraction fades, not merely from surface-level behavioral patterns, but from the deep psychological structures that govern female desire. This isn't about manipulation or control, it is about understanding the dark mechanics of attraction psychology so that one can navigate the subtle currents of desire with awareness, insight, and strategy. To understand this, we must first acknowledge a truth that many avoid. Women are not entirely rational in matters of desire. Even the most logical, self-aware woman is influenced by archetypal forces that operate beneath her conscious mind. The anima is the filter through which men are evaluated, not only by their actions but by the symbolic resonance they carry in her unconscious. If a man triggers an archetype that resonates deeply, she will feel magnetically drawn, often without understanding why. Conversely, if her unconscious detects dissonance, even in the presence of charm, attention, or status, her attraction can collapse in moments, leaving him bewildered, searching for reasons that may never be consciously articulated. We'll now dive into the first key mechanism behind this phenomenon: the unconscious evaluation of alignment with the feminine archetype. Observation, the subtle signals of fading attraction. If you observe interactions carefully, patterns emerge. Women rarely announce when their attraction begins to fade. Instead, they exhibit subtle, almost imperceptible behaviors that signal a shift in desire. These are not deliberate manipulations, they are reflections of internal psychological processes. A smile that once lingered now becomes fleeting. Conversations that flowed effortlessly may feel stilted. She may withdraw emotionally, express subtle critiques, or even initiate silent tests of your attention and interest. From a Jungian perspective, these behaviors are manifestations of the anima reacting to perceived misalignment. The anima functions as both gatekeeper and judge, assessing whether a man fits the internalized archetype of the masculine ideal. This evaluation is not conscious. She may have no rational explanation for why she feels bored, restless, or emotionally detached, but it is profoundly influential. In the dynamics of attraction, consider a common scenario. A man demonstrates high social value, intelligence, and charm. Yet, over time, the woman begins to feel a subtle sense of disconnection. Perhaps he shares personal vulnerabilities too early, or perhaps he fails to match the intensity of the fantasy her anima projected onto him. The conscious mind sees no obvious flaw, yet the unconscious mind perceives an archetypal misfit. The result? Her attraction diminishes, often without a single rational argument or complaint. Observation is key here. Men often misinterpret these subtle cues as trivial or situational. But if examined carefully, they reveal the unconscious architecture of female desire. The anima does not respond to ordinary logic or conventional rules of attraction. It responds to psychological resonance, symbolic alignment, and emotional intensity. A critical observation is that this fading does not happen linearly. A woman's attention may flicker, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. She might express interest, then pull away suddenly, then return again. This cycle is not random. It is the unconscious testing of alignment between her internalized ideal and the external reality. The anima projects a fantasy onto the man and measures whether reality can sustain the intensity of that projection. When the man fails to maintain this resonance, the attraction can collapse suddenly, creating the illusion of capriciousness. Psychological analysis, the archetypal misalignment. To illustrate, consider the case of a man we'll call Arman. Arman is charming, attentive and high status. Initially, the woman he is interested in is drawn to him instantly. Their connection is electric. Conversations are effortless, and she openly expresses fascination. Yet within weeks, her excitement diminishes. She becomes distant, critical, and increasingly preoccupied with other pursuits. From Arman's perspective, everything seems fine. There were no overt conflicts, no betrayals, no signs of dissatisfaction. So why did the attraction fade so quickly? The answer lies in archetypal misalignment. The woman's anima unconsciously projected an idealized masculine image onto Arman, confident, emotionally impenetrable and mysterious. Initially, Arman's charm and attention triggered this projection perfectly, but as reality set in, his availability, predictability, or emotional transparency, the unconscious began to detect a subtle dissonance between her fantasy and his real behavior. The conscious mind may have rationalized her feelings as boredom or changing circumstances, but the unconscious mechanism of attraction had already shifted. This is a crucial insight. Women are often attracted to the shadow elements of the masculine archetype, the mysterious, challenging, or unattainable qualities that trigger desire at an unconscious level. When these elements are absent or neutralized, the magnetic pull fades. In essence, it is not a reflection of her dissatisfaction with the man's value in conventional terms, but a collapse in symbolic resonance. From a psychological standpoint, this also explains why men who maintain a certain enigmatic aura, or who cultivate an internal sense of purpose and emotional independence, sustain female attraction longer. The anima responds not merely to charm, resources, or attention, but to the depth, intensity, and symbolic alignment of masculine energy. In practical terms, the fading of attraction is therefore a shadow signal. It reveals the inner workings of her unconscious, not a judgment on superficial compatibility. Men who recognize this can navigate the subtle currents of desire with insight, understanding when to withdraw, when to challenge, and when to allow the projection of archetypal desire to flourish once more. The shadow of familiarity, why comfort kills desire. Attraction is a delicate flame, and familiarity often acts as an invisible wind that either nurtures it or snuffs it out entirely. In Jungian terms, the anima responds not to comfort or predictability, but to archetypal tension, mystery, and the challenge of the unknown. When a woman begins to feel that a man is fully understood, predictable, or emotionally too available, her unconscious may interpret him as mundane, domesticated, or no longer a mirror of her inner desire. This does not mean that men should become distant for the sake of attraction, but it illustrates a fundamental psychological truth. Female desire thrives on intensity, challenge, and symbolic resonance, not on routine predictability. Once a man has been fully integrated into her conscious understanding, the anima loses its magnetic pull. She no longer experiences the thrill of uncertainty or the unconscious recognition of an archetypal match. Consider the subtle behaviors. She may laugh less, offer less emotional validation, or question his intentions more frequently. To the conscious mind, these shifts might appear trivial, but they reflect a profound unconscious recalibration. Her attraction is governed by the subconscious evaluation of whether her projected fantasy continues to be fulfilled. When daily life removes the layers of mystery or unpredictability, the anima reacts, often by withdrawing desire. This withdrawal is often misinterpreted by men as caprice, insecurity, or superficiality, but in truth it is a biological and psychological mechanism designed to preserve intensity in emotional and sexual engagement. Attraction is not a reward for attention. The shadow of familiarity also intersects with her emotional projection. When a man behaves too predictably, she unconsciously begins to test him, sometimes consciously, often unconsciously. These tests may appear as petty disagreements, sudden disinterest, or subtle withdrawal. The anima is evaluating whether he can maintain the symbolic intensity required to sustain attraction, not whether he is good enough in mundane terms. For the perceptive man, these signals are opportunities for recalibration, not crises. They demand a deeper understanding of psychological dynamics, a conscious cultivation of internal depth, and a refusal to rely solely on superficial charm or attention. The anima, after all, is not fooled by effort. It responds to inner gravitas, emotional authenticity, and the ability to embody archetypal, masculine energy without being consumed by external validation. The dance of pull and withdrawal, understanding female testing. One of the most confounding aspects of female psychology is the cycle of approach and withdrawal. She may pursue, engage, and express desire one moment, only to retreat, become distant, or even cold the next. For many men, this appears irrational, yet from a Jungian perspective, it is the anima's unconscious mechanism for measuring emotional and symbolic alignment. The approach-withdrawal cycle is not about manipulation. It is a test of resonance. Her unconscious seeks to determine whether the man can sustain attraction under psychological tension. This tension is essential because desire diminishes in safety, familiarity, or predictability. The anima thrives on the archetypal dance between challenge and surrender, dominance and vulnerability, mystery and revelation. Consider the following scenario. A man demonstrates emotional availability and attention. She is drawn in by this engagement but unconsciously seeks a test, perhaps subtle teasing, delayed responses, or mild criticism. These behaviors measure whether he remains emotionally anchored, confident, and enigmatic under pressure. A man who responds with desperation, over-apologizing, or emotional volatility signals weakness in the archetypal dance. Conversely, a man who maintains calm detachment, self-possession, and controlled vulnerability demonstrates the inner strength the anima craves, often rekindling attraction even after withdrawal. The pull and withdrawal cycle also highlights the importance of psychological depth over superficial traits. Women unconsciously evaluate whether a man can navigate emotional complexity, maintain a sense of self, and embody the archetypal, masculine ideal in situations that provoke uncertainty or tension. If he passes these unspoken tests, her attraction intensifies. If he fails, it diminishes sharply. This mechanism explains why many relationships fail despite apparent compatibility or affection. Attraction is not simply a product of shared interests or physical chemistry. It is a dynamic interplay between unconscious projections, emotional resonance, and symbolic alignment. Men who understand this can avoid the common trap of reacting emotionally to withdrawal and instead engage with the deeper psychological currents that govern desire. The anima's mirror, how male projection influences female desire. A central principle in Jungian psychology is projection. The unconscious attributes of one person are often perceived and experienced in another. In female attraction, the anima plays a critical role as both projector and projector target. Women unconsciously project ideals onto men, and men project their own inner desires and insecurities onto women. This interplay determines the intensity, duration, and volatility of attraction. When a woman loses interest suddenly, it often reflects a misalignment between her unconscious projections and the reality she perceives. Perhaps she imagined a man who embodies mystery, emotional autonomy, or latent power, but in reality, he reveals vulnerabilities, predictability, or patterns that fail to resonate with her inner archetype. The anima perceives this discrepancy as a threat to the symbolic coherence of desire, leading to withdrawal. Simultaneously, men unknowingly influence female attraction through their own projections. A man who unconsciously seeks validation, overinvests emotionally, or fails to maintain internal depth signals instability or misalignment. The anima responds not to superficial charm but to psychological resonance, presence, and emotional gravity. In other words, she is drawn not to what a man says or does, but to the unconscious depth he embodies, and which mirrors her archetypal expectations. Consider how this works in practice. A man who has mastered his inner life, maintains autonomy, and cultivates symbolic significance through actions, demeanor, and emotional control will trigger a strong unconscious attraction. A man who lacks these qualities, or who unconsciously signals neediness or inconsistency, may witness rapid fading of interest. This is the dark, hidden law of female attraction. Ultimately, understanding the anima as a mirror of both projection and reception offers a profound insight. Female attraction is ephemeral not because of superficiality, but because it reflects the dynamic equilibrium between archetypal desire and psychological resonance. The fatal attraction of misunderstanding, why men fail to recognize the anima. One of the most tragic patterns in male-female dynamics is the misinterpretation of female disinterest as superficiality, fickleness, or irrationality. Men often view sudden withdrawal as a personal failure or a flaw in the woman's character, when in reality it reflects the workings of the anima, a psychological filter through which attraction is continuously measured, evaluated, and sometimes revoked. Women rarely articulate this mechanism because the anima operates unconsciously. She cannot explain precisely why desire fades, and attempts to rationalize the experience are filtered through the conscious mind, which seeks logic and clarity where none exists. Men, conditioned to seek cause and effect explanations, perceive unpredictability as capriciousness, failing to grasp that attraction is not linear, logical, or negotiable. It is a reflection of archetypal alignment. The danger lies in reaction. Men who attempt to force attraction through attention, gifts, or pleading often amplify the problem. This is because the anima does not respond to effort. It responds to inner depth, emotional gravity, and archetypal resonance. Effort without substance is perceived as desperation, predictability, or lack of autonomy, which are precisely the qualities that trigger fading desire. Understanding this truth requires brutal honesty. Female attraction is often a mirror of what you unconsciously carry, not what you consciously display. A woman may be drawn to your power, mystery, and independence, but if these qualities waver under scrutiny, her attraction will vanish as swiftly as it appeared. Herein lies the dark beauty of the anima. It is impartial, exacting, and unforgiving, reflecting not your surface persona but the depth and authenticity of your inner masculine self. Philosophical takeaways and mastery of attraction. What does this mean for men seeking to navigate the treacherous waters of female desire? First, it demands self-mastery. The anima tests not only compatibility but also psychological presence. Men who cultivate inner depth, emotional autonomy, and symbolic resonance maintain attraction longer than those who rely on superficial charm, external validation, or constant availability. Second, it requires perception and patience. Recognize the subtle signals of fading attraction, withdrawal of attention, subtle criticism, testing behaviors, or shifts in emotional engagement. These are not failures, they are psychological markers revealing where unconscious alignment has broken down. Respond not with fear or aggression but with calm awareness, maintaining emotional poise and internal gravitas. Third, embrace the paradoxical truth of female desire. Intensity thrives in mystery, challenge, and depth, not comfort, predictability, or emotional availability alone. Attraction is ephemeral precisely because it demands constant alignment between archetypal projections and psychological resonance. It is not a game of manipulation, but a dark dance in which only those who master their inner world can consistently navigate the pull of desire. Finally, consider the philosophical lesson. Desire is a reflection of the unconscious interplay between projection and perception. The woman's anima is a mirror, reflecting the man's depth, presence, and archetypal power. The man who comprehends this dynamic does not chase attraction, he embodies the qualities that naturally evoke it, sustaining it through the gravitas of his own being. This is the dark, hidden lore of female psychology. Attraction is not granted. It is earned in the realm of the unconscious, maintained by alignment with archetypal ideals, and extinguished by misalignment, familiarity, or lack of depth. To understand and navigate this is not merely to seduce, it is to enter the shadowy terrain of desire, wield awareness, and emerge with mastery over the psychological currents that govern human passion. If you want to truly understand the secret mechanisms that drive female desire and the collapse of attraction, stay tuned for our next deep dive, where we reveal the 7 subtle signs she is unconsciously testing you and how to respond without losing control of your own psychological power. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to step further into the dark realms of female psychology, attraction, and the shadow archetypes that rule desire.